Anthony Fauci, a top advisor to President Biden on the coronavirus pandemic, said he's not convinced the deadly virus developed naturally and has called for further investigations into where it emerged.
Various theories have been doing the rounds about the origin and spread of the novel coronavirus since its outbreak. And now another report published in a leading daily puts forward another latest theory that confirms COVID-19's origin in China. The Sunday Times report says that coronavirus's closest ancestor was found as early as in the year 2013 in a bat-infested mine in China. The 2013 strain of the bat coronavirus, known as the RA-BT-CoV 4991, left 6 adult men sick with pneumonia and at least 3 of them dead. It was found in an abandoned copper mine in Mojiang in western China. The report cited a medic whose supervisor worked in the emergency department and treated the 6 infected men. The same mine in Yan'an province was subsequently studied by Shi Zhengli, an expert in SARS-like coronaviruses of bat origins at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. She has been termed as Batwoman for her expeditions into bat caves. This particular virus was isolated from bats in Yunnan province, China, and showed a 96.2% sequence identity with SARS-CoV-2. Hence, the RATG13 is the closest relative, now forming a distinct lineage from other coronaviruses. Scientists in 2013 sent frozen samples of bats' feces to a Wuhan lab and stored them for years for study purposes. Last year in December, when Wuhan became the epicenter of a global coronavirus pandemic, it was said that this virus may have leaked from the Wuhan lab. The claims were later denied by the director of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. However, it's now widely believed that the virus first began in bats, and scientists across the world are of the opinion that the virus spread from bats to other animal species like pangolin, which then mutated into a strain that could be passed on to humans.
Actually, it looks like this virus did come from a lab in China. Nearly a year and a half into the pandemic, that is the new consensus in the American media. Boy, these things change fast.
For years, Dr. Ralph Baric, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create superviruses. This gain-of-function research has been funded by the NIH. The collaboration between the U.S. and the Wuhan Virology Institute continues. Doctors Baric and Shi worked together to insert bat virus spike protein into the backbone of the deadly SARS virus, and then used this man-made supervirus to infect human airway cells. Think about that for a moment. The SARS virus had a 15% mortality. We're fighting a pandemic that has about a 1% mortality. Can you imagine if a SARS virus that's been juiced up and had viral proteins added to it, to the spike protein, if that were released accidentally? Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Do they fund Dr. Baric?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Baric's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Baric does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina. You
don't think inserting
in
a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
You would
not
be in the minority because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that.
So do you still support sending money to the Wuhan Virology Institute?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan Virology Institute.
Do you support sending money? We did, under your tutelage. We were sending it through EcoHealth. It was a sub-agency and a sub-grant. Do you support the money from NIH that was going to the Wuhan Institute?
Let me explain to you why that was done. The SARS-CoV-1 originated in bats in China. It would have been irresponsible of us if we did not investigate the bat viruses and the serology to see who might have been infected.
Or perhaps it would be
in China.
responsible to send it to the Chinese government that we may not be able to trust with this knowledge and with this incredibly dangerous viruses. Government scientists like yourself who favor gain-of-function research.
I don't favor gain-of-function research in China. You are saying things that are not correct.
Now, despite the controversy surrounding this type of research, it always had one steadfast champion, a leading figure in the world of infectious diseases, Anthony Fauci. His institute funded that first ferret study. At the time, he co-wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post describing this research as, quote, a risk worth taking. Important information and insights can come from generating a potentially dangerous virus in the laboratory. And shortly before the Obama administration's ban on gain-of-function research in 2014, Fauci commissioned this. It was a project to assess the risk of new coronaviruses emerging from wild animals, like bats. One of its stated aims was to see what viruses can infect both animals and humans. Now, pay close attention to these words right at the end of the project summary. Predictive models of host range, i.e. emergence potential, will be tested experimentally using reverse genetics, pseudovirus and receptor binding assays, and virus infection experiments across a range of cell cultures from different species and humanized mice. That is a description of viral gain-of-function research, the exact type of research that the Obama administration stopped. But Fauci didn't stop it. He continued on by subcontracting it to this group, EcoHealth Alliance, based in New York. It's run by a big name in the field of virus research, Peter Daszak. He's a zoologist who specializes in wildlife diseases. His claim to fame, and it's a big one, is that he was the person who first discovered the bat origin of the SARS pandemic just over a decade ago. Daszak established that the virus came from bats via a civet cat in a Chinese market. Ever since then, Daszak developed a reputation as the Batman. He and his team would literally go to remote jungle caves to collect bat samples for scientific research. The project that Fauci commissioned gave EcoHealth Alliance more than $3 million over the course of 6 years, despite the Obama administration's ban. And here we come to the crucial step, which has never before been reported. Peter Daszak himself subcontracted a key piece of the Fauci project, the gain-of-function piece. He gave that to a well-known center of expertise in gain-of-function virus research, which specialized in bat coronaviruses. Yep, he gave it to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The question is, did they give it to us? Let's see what they did with the Fauci money. In the project's results page, there are 13 papers co-authored by Shizheng Li, who is head of the Wuhan Institute's infectious disease unit. One of the papers was published in 2017, roughly halfway through the project. Peter Daszak is listed as a co-author. It's a kind of progress report. Inside the funding section of that paper is the ID of the Fauci commissioned project. That's the money trail. Until now, the only reporting on Fauci's role in all this has been on his funding of the Wuhan lab in general. But tonight we can go further. Thanks to this paper, we can see the specific activity that Fauci funded. And it's terrifying. So terrifying, in fact, that after we reached out to the NIH and Peter Daszak's group for comment, this paper was mysteriously taken offline on Friday for a while. But we downloaded it weeks ago. Here are the details. We're putting the actual scientific language on screen now, but this is what it means in plain English. They collected samples of bat feces from a cave near Kunming in Yunnan province, China. They found many novel bat coronaviruses in the feces. They analyzed them and sequenced their genetic information. They then built various chimeras, genetically engineered new viruses, man-made, in the lab. They infected human cells with them in the lab. And they then showed that their man-made viruses could replicate as a functional virus. Here's the most important part. The genetic changes they made in the lab unlocked a highly specific doorway into the human body. The virus that causes COVID-19 uses that same exact doorway. To be clear, None of the genetically engineered viruses created back in 2017 and reported in this paper were the exact ones we're dealing with now. But what they confirm is that it was possible to make the COVID-19 virus using the techniques developed in the Fauci project. And that project continued for 3 more years. 3 more years of experimentation, 3 more years of man-made mutation. Now let's look at the actual COVID-19 virus. How does it compare to the ones we know were made earlier in the Wuhan lab? The actual pandemic virus was found to stick to human cells 10 to 20 times tighter than the original SARS virus, which is why it's much more infectious. Scientists would expect increases in infectiousness to happen through cycles of mutation, but with this virus, it was there from the start. In a paper published in February 2020, Shi Zhengli confirms that the backbone of the pandemic virus matches one from the Wuhan Institute's library of collected samples. Their 2017 paper describes how they swapped parts of coronavirus found in other animals into bat coronavirus strains in order to make more infectious man-made versions. And sure enough, the pandemic virus looks like a combination of 2 very different bat viruses mixed with parts of a virus from a completely different species. Could something like that occur in nature? That's what Peter Daszak is saying. Quote, maybe a farmer got infected or a farmer's animals and they were shipped into their markets. If a person brings it in or an animal, that virus will spread. And it looks like that's what happened here. If we're to believe that natural origin story, here are the coincidences that would have had to happen. Multiple different species of bats in South China would have to infect each other and some other unknown animal. Then either these animals or an infected human would need to have traveled 1,000 miles without infecting anyone until they got to Wuhan. In its first incarnation, before any mutations, it would have been 10 to 20 times more infectious than any previously observed virus. And most incredibly of all, the infected animal or human would have somehow chosen to make their 1,000-mile trek to the only place in all of China with a lab that had the world's most extensive collection of the viruses it was already infected with, and the one place in the entire world that carried out genetic research which matched that virus. We're not suggesting for a second that the coronavirus was created or released as a bioweapon, but lab accidents happen. That is literally the reason the Obama administration stopped this kind of research. During the SARS epidemic, 2 researchers studying that virus in a lab in China became infected and sparked an outbreak. Another researcher in Singapore was infected with SARS, and he wasn't even studying it. Other people in his lab were. Even with the proper precautions, these leaks can happen.